Hello there, fans of TJ's radio show. Tonight, we will air our adaptation of Can't Go Home Again, based on a novel by Mable Stitchpunk. This show will be sponsored by Bond's Burgers. This is a project long in the making, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Mike looked up at the building whose address had been provided to him in the note. A standard-looking house in a standard-looking neighborhood in a standard-looking slice of the rural American Northeast. The details of the home, however, were of next to no importance, as Mike's mind continued to dwell on the events of the last few weeks, events that reassured him that this place and his life from then on were anything but standard. The funeral in particular still felt fresh in his memory. 5 days ago.
When I first ran away from home, I heard they gave free pizza if you took a job at Freddy's. I needed food, so I lied about my age to get the security guard job. I'm pretty sure he knew that. Frederick was a good boss. The pay for the job itself wasn't great, so he gave me some extra cash on the side that I could use to get an apartment. I haven't worked for him in a long while, but we never became strangers. We were friends, I think. I thought about this speech for a while, and I rehearsed it, and I guess I still don't really know what to say. I guess I just wish I got to say goodbye.
Mike wandered from the podium once he had finished. Not many of the expected visitors had arrived yet, but his nerves chewed at him all the same.
And then the executor walked to the podium.
Frederick ran a good business with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. No matter how dark things became with the restaurant, his goal was always to entertain and comfort children. God, if you may, please tell this great soul that we are grateful for his contributions to our town, and hope he may rest in peace. And of course, the part I am here for, the will. Frederick's will declares his car, warehouse, and objects within the warehouse go to Sam Fritz. His house and every single possession inside all goes to Mike Schmidt.
Mike was stunned by the executor's sudden announcement of his name. He had expected nothing from the man, so to be gifted by him his entire home, something so private, so personal. What followed passed in a daze until he found himself now in front of the house. His house, even if it was yet to feel like it. Mike finally gained enough emotional strength to walk up to the home. Mike observed the quiet space, the living room, adorned simply by plain furnishings, an old couch before a low wooden table, a grandfather clock, a television sheltering a stack of tapes, static buzzing on the screen and pouring faint light across the room.
A kitchen off to the side, fitted with all the big and little things a kitchen in a home this size was expected to have. The tapes in particular drew his interest, and so he inspected the labels against the light of the static.
Fredbear and Friends, Season 2. Frederick must have really liked those old tunes they made for it. I should really turn on the lights.
Mike had a better view of the insides of the house now. A letter off-white and watermarked with the Freddy's logo, the words "For Mike" written carefully across it. Mike took the letter back with him to the living room couch before opening it.
Dear Mike, this is Frederick. If you are reading this, I'm dead. I knew I did not have long. I've been dealing with heart issues for a while. I just wanted to tell you all the times I joked about you being like a son to me were not jokes. Mike, you are my family. You are one of my favorite people. I lost my children over the years, so meeting you was the best thing I could do in the later years of my life. I knew full well that you were the person I wanted to inherit this home. My only regret is that I don't have the time to explain things better. I wish I could give you this with no strings attached, but that's not the case. Mike, there's skeletons in the closet you need to take care of. Things from the past. All I can do is tell you that you have a choice on how hard you want to look into the past. You can take care of what you need and do nothing more, or you can push forward. If you push forward, you'll find a lot of ugly questions, and worse, you may find answers that you don't like. And once you go deep, there's no going back. No matter what happens, I don't want my last words to you to be of fear. So for one last note, just know that whatever you do, I am proud of you, and I wish you well, Mike.
There was a picture clipped to the letter, one of Frederick and Mike together at some event he couldn't quite remember the occasion of. Mike set the letter down on the table, loosing it from his grasp like a heavy stone. The gravity of it all seemed to press on him then. The feelings of loss and confusion, the tepid excitement of having an entire house dropped in his lap, the bittersweet sense that came from finishing Frederick's final note. But the latter half of his letter tinged his mood with concern. What skeletons were hiding in Frederick's closet? What deeds had the man left behind that he would now have to be wary of? Mike didn't really feel scared from it. Having to fend for himself against the malfunctioning animatronics at Freddy's made it difficult to be scared of such things anymore. Besides, Frederick was some middlingly successful guy in Utah who sold pizza. What was the worst he could be hiding? A run with the mob? Mike decided to get something to eat, which would distract himself from the heavy emotions involved with the letter.
He walked to the fridge and checked the food within.
The milk, though not too long past its expiry date, looked to be taking on an incorrect coloration. The leftovers beside and above it, of course, looked similarly unappealing.
I'm going to take a wild guess and assume this stuff is not good anymore.
Then, in the corner of his eye, he spotted a fuzzy blob of pink where his eyes didn't focus, and shifting his attention discovered, to his amazement, a fresh tray of pink, sprinkled cupcakes. How they appeared in the kitchen, and why they still appeared fresh, were a mystery that he would figure out later. An instant passed between Mike spotting the cupcakes and one landing squarely in his mouth. Mike decided to leave the kitchen then and venture deeper into the house, discovering several bedrooms. The first room looked like it was for a child, from the small bed and sizable toy box. He assumed it was a toy box, though the blue and purple striped box, half buried in stuffed toys, could just as easily have been a large present of some kind. Among the toys, one stood out to him. The Golden Freddy plush. Ragged and torn, he couldn't help but remember that thing that he had seen once in the restaurant, slumped back, dead-eyed and gaping. But the sense of dread subsided. Mike wasn't scared of the past. What did unnerve him was the feeling that pieces of a puzzle were being slowly put in place. Frederick's son had passed many years ago, but the room was pristine. Had this room become some kind of memorial for them? Mike's appetite quickly disappeared, and the door was closed with similar speed. The next two rooms seemed fit for teenagers. In the first, and other boys, he saw the full collection of Fast Force figurines arranged neatly on the far shelf, themselves children of a collaboration between Freddy's and M&A Harmony Toys. Beneath them on the bed was a golden Bonnie toy whose vicious, outsized jaws seemed ready to bite at the first provocation. More strange guardians for another lost child. The next room seemed fit for a girl, but Mike found himself less curious to explore with each door he passed. Suddenly, he heard something. A sound peculiar to his ears of playful chimes somewhere in the distance, a song he didn't recognize. Its source, the master bedroom, the last door at the end of the hall. Mike approached the sound carefully. His rational mind insisted it was likely a phone of some sort, but that was not the answer that greeted him as he peered inside.
What the?
The creature was slender, almost impossibly so for something its size. It had human proportions, but its skin was black as the shadows of the room, broken only by narrow bands of white on its arms and legs. At its head was a face made of porcelain, and regarded him at first with a smile. But Mike blinked, and in that fraction of a second, when Mike's eyes opened, it had crossed the length of the room and was upon him, tendrillous fingers wrapping around his neck. Surprise had been the creature's advantage, but it was outdone by raw strength. Mike pulled the creature from him, scrambling to full height and turning to run. In that brief moment that he had to study the creature further, he saw that the creature was not running after him, but floating, pulled along by some phantom force. Mike banked into one of the bedrooms, hurling the door shut behind him in a desperate attempt to put physical space between him and his aggressor. The threat had passed. For now. He needed to think. The thing outside, it had to be some kind of animatronic. He'd never seen one like this before, its very existence raising questions he'd never thought to ask about the others he'd seen.
This is Sam, Fritz. I'm away at the moment, but leave a message and I'll call back when available.
God damn it, Sam. There's, a mime in Frederick's house. I think it's an animatronic. Just get back to me when you can.
Mike looked around the cage he had made for himself, one of the teens' rooms, the one with the Fast Force toys. Being in a room with a dead kid did not exactly help the mood. The toy guardians were shaken by his disruption of the space. It felt like they were staring at him, judging him for his trespass, as if at any second they would...
Oh, right. Ringtone.
Mike? I just got your message. This animatronic, is it a black and white sock monkey?
Sock monkey. It's black and white. I can ask if it's supposed to be some kind of monkey if you'd like.
I think I know what you're dealing with. I saw it back in 1987. It's crafty. It didn't fall for any of our tricks.
Ah, so I'm doomed. Good to know.
There was one thing. There was this music box. We keep the thing inside of it, and it would play music to render it docile. Is there anything like that here?
I think there might be. I saw this big present thing.
That's it. Once you get there, you should be fine.
Alright. I'll try that. If you don't hear from me in the morning, you can assume I died getting strangled to death by a puppet.
Mike very slowly stepped outside of the bedroom. The box was not that far, it was just a room away. He looked around. He didn't see the puppet anywhere near here. Perhaps he was lucky and it was searching for him in the wrong area of the house. Mike very quietly stepped over to the younger boy's bedroom. Soon he was there, and there it was. The box. Safety. He slowly walked inside, seeming to be in the clear. He did a quick look around the room just in time to see the puppet creature in the closet.
Crap.
toys fell around the box as the creature lunged. Mike reached for the box. There was a winding tool on the side of it he could use, a crank. The puppet caught on to what he was doing and reached for his arm, pulling it to keep him from winding it. Mike grunted and struggled, but was able to grab a pillow. He pushed the pillow in front of the puppet's face. Its grip loosened in shock. The puppet's focus was broken. He threw both hands to the box and turned the crank as fast as his muscles could will them. The puppet regained focus and tackled Mike again, but it was too late. Once Mike's hands were off the box's winding implement, the tune began to play. Mike was able to see the puppet let go of him, flailing violently, placing its hands on where its ears should be in a desperate attempt to maintain consciousness. It flew above the ground, kicking its feet, trying to fight the tune. But it was futile, as it fell to the bed, lifeless. Mike's hands didn't leave the handle. Instead, he kept turning, longer and longer, until he could feel the spring inside straining against the motion. Hopefully it would be some time before it stopped again. Time enough for him to call Sam, to leave this house and never come back. He picked himself up from the plush-covered floor and ready to leave, when, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a photo he had missed before. A small boy in a blue-striped shirt holding a toy in his arms, one he felt like he'd seen. Looking back over the mess, he saw the ugly, golden-yellow Fredbear doll from before, a toy that had known many years of love, known more than any other in the room, more than the child could have given it when they were alive. Wheels spun in Mike's mind. The implication that formed in his head was impossible, but unshakable. In a world of the supernatural that Freddy's had shown him, of ghosts and murders and malfunctioning animatronics, perhaps it was possible that Frederick's youngest son had truly passed. Not completely. He tried to dismiss the thought. It was probably just something Frederick built to replace his son, but he couldn't neglect the possibility. Frederick had left it to him to decide how deeply he wanted to involve himself in the past. How he approached it would define that choice more than anything, and he needed to make it before the music box stopped playing. He fumbled his phone in his hand as his eyes locked with the photo of the child. A half hour. The puppet didn't know how it knew, only that it did. It only had enough time to recognize the intruder was watching, to spring forward for another attack when the door came crashing in between them. The intruder spoke.
Okay, so I just want to call a truce. Just give me a minute to try explaining things.
There was no response from the other side of the door, but it made no attempt to leave either. So Mike continued.
Okay, Frederick. He was taking care of you, right? This was his home. You saw that letter on the table. To Mike, you must have seen this while you were living here, but the letter was never opened. I am guessing he told you not to open it, and you obeyed. Well, I'm Mike. I just want to say I didn't come to rob you or anything. I came here because Frederick wanted me to be here. Frederick, he is not coming back. No one did anything to him, but he was dealing with health issues, and finally he passed away.
A minute passed. Mike was getting emotional. He held the proof in his hands, the letter with a picture of Mike and Frederick attached. After a moment's hesitation, he slid it under the door. He was really hoping he was right in his presumptions of the situation. If he was not, it is entirely possible he just threw away his chance to escape safely. From the other side of the door, he could hear the letter being opened again and the shuffling of paper. For a solid 2 minutes, there was nothing but silence. Then, finally, it was broken. Mike had been right, to some extent. He dared to open the door again, enough to see inside, and saw the puppet there on the floor, sobbing on its knees, mask buried in its hands and hanging over the letter. It was a profoundly human response.
I'm sorry, it's gonna be okay.
Mike's dread washed away and was replaced by nothing but sympathy for the creature. He had time to come to grips with what happened, but now it seemed it was their turn to mourn. Once again, Mike needed to make a choice, to commit to this path or choose to leave the poor spirit in its grief forever. As Frederick had told him, there was no going back.